first glance, this just looked like an ordinary cutting board, but hidden inside was the perfect vintage cottage decor piece just waiting to emerge. Layered decoupage and tiny molded geese. This transformation turns simple craft supplies into something that looks straight out of a countryside antique shop. Hello, my crafty friends. I'm Donna from Mason Creations, etc. And welcome to my channel. If you're ready, my friends, let's make a mess. This MDF wooden cutting board set is designed for a layered look. I love layering my pieces. It adds so much interest. I'm going to start off painting both pieces white. I'm using Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color cotton. I'm using a sponge dauber because it lays down more paint than a brush does. Works great for large areas. I'll be decoupaging both boards, and anytime you decoupage either napkins or rice paper, you need a white background. White makes the colors in your images look bright and vibrant. A dark color background paint will make your images look dark. I'll be doing a future project showing you guys exactly how to decoupage an image with a dark background. This is such adorable rice paper. I just love the goose with the straw hat. She's going to look so cute on the basket background I'm going to be doing on the board. The oval in the center isn't the same dimensions as the oval board, so I'm going to have to duplicate this another way. I'm cutting out the goose for right now. I'm using a water brush to tear the rice paper, which will feather the edges. A feathered edge is so much easier to blend than a sharp cut edge. I'm also removing any excess paper that's not needed. A water brush has a cartridge that you fill with water and then brush it on the napkin or rice paper. The water dispenses easily, so this is really convenient. I'm using Polyvine Heavy Duty Varnish in a satin finish as my decoupage adhesive today. You can use this product as a varnish and an adhesive, which is true for all the Polyvine formulas. This varnish dries to the touch in 1 hour and is completely cured in 16 hours. It dries crystal clear and will never yellow. The cutting board section I'm going to decoupage with this really cool basket rice paper. It's not quite long enough, but I'm going to add a piece to make it work. I cut off the white edge at the top where I'll be adding another piece. I shifted the paper around until I got it in place, then I started attaching it to the board. I'm using the same heavy-duty varnish to decoupage this paper down as well. I made sure to saturate the paper thoroughly, especially around the edges. Because you're watching this video today, DecoupageNapkins.com is going to give you a 10% discount on one order that's a minimum of at least $50. This is a one-time discount and is good on your entire order when you use the code MASON10 in all caps at checkout. So now you can get that mold you've been eyeing or some additional rice papers you've been wanting. Even if you've been ordering from them in the past, you can still take advantage of this one-time 10% discount when using the code above. I'll leave all this information for you in my description box below. To find my description box, click on the word more just below the title of this video. I cut a piece out of the excess on the side to use at the very top. I made sure to cut a nice straight edge following the pattern of the paper. I just matched it up with the paper that's already on there, butting the edges right up next to each other. You'll never know this was pieced together. I misted a piece of a Ziploc bag with some water, laid it on the paper, and rubbed out any would-be bubbles or wrinkles with a paper towel through the plastic. Then remove the plastic very carefully so as not to lift the paper. And I'll let this dry for a couple hours. I always make the rice paper or napkin a little bit longer than what I'm going to need, so that I can get a nice clean edge. I'm going to do this with a medium grit sandpaper. I'm running the sandpaper over the edge of my piece in a downward motion. Make sure you don't go upward, you'll risk lifting your rice paper or napkin. The sandpaper cuts off the paper, leaving a very clean edge. Then I gave both pieces another coat of varnish to make sure everything is glued down properly. I made sure to give the goose a generous coat, especially around the edges of the paper. I'm going to be doing some paint blending, and those edges need to be sealed for the best blending outcome. And then I'll let that dry for about an hour. I'm going to add a little depth to this board by creating a shadow around the edges of the board. I'm using Pentart paint in the color dark brown. I'm misting the sponge that I'm going to use to apply the paint with a little water. This will make the paint go on a little lighter. I'm just dabbing the sponge around all the edges. After I put paint on the sponge, I'm scraping most of it off on the side of the paint jar. This way the paint won't go on too thick. Where are you all watching from, my crafty friends? Let me know in the comments. I just love to see what cities and countries all my friends are watching from. I'm filming from sunny Las Vegas, Nevada in the United States. And then I let this dry for about 30 minutes. Okay, it's time to do a little paint blending. I'm using Pentart paint in the color off-white. This is a cool white that borders on the gray side, which is exactly the background color of this rice paper around the goose. I put it down in two places. In one of them, I mixed a little Pentart country blue, dark blue, and white to get the correct color for blending the blue hues at the bottom. I blended my blue with the paper at the bottom of the board. I blended the paint right up onto the paper. Bringing your new color up onto the paper helps the colors blend together. Then I blended the off-white up onto the paper, going around the rest of the goose and also into the blue at the bottom to soften that color. I'm removing any paint that I accidentally got on the image with a damp brush. There's a satin sealer on the paper, so it'll remove easily from wherever it doesn't belong. If you really want to get into some depth regarding paint matching and blending, click the banner at the top right corner of your screen. I'll also leave you a link to the video in my description box. And then I let this dry for about 30 minutes. I marked on the bottom board exactly where I'm going to add my goose layer. I'm putting it higher on the board because I'm going to be adding some air-dried clay details to the bottom. I want to add a shadow around the board with the goose, which will give it some depth and dimension, giving it a more 3D appearance. I'm going to sponge some of the watered down dark brown paint following the oval shape. I made it larger than what I marked so it would extend out beyond the layered board. I'm going to give the bottom board a coat of Polyvine heavy-duty varnish in the dead flat finish. I want the bottom board to have a matte finish and the top board with the goose to have some shine. Wait until you see the beautiful finish I'm going to do on the oval board with the goose. And then I'll let that dry for about an hour. I'm using Pentart's Fine Line Crackle Varnish to add a beautiful vintage porcelain look to this piece. It's a two-part system and I'm brushing on component number 1. And then I'll let that dry for about an hour. Until it's clear. DecoupageNapkins.com has an amazing selection of napkins, and the best part is that you can purchase them individually. They carry a wide range of craft supplies, including rice paper, paints, clay, molds, and an excellent selection of Polyvine products. With thousands of items available and new products being added regularly, it's truly a one-stop shop for crafters. Orders are carefully packed and shipped quickly. You'll earn bonus points on orders over $100. Additional offers may vary and are often seasonal, so be sure to check their website. You'll find any promotions displayed in a banner at the top of their homepage. Subscribe to their newsletter by entering your email address to receive 10% off your next order. This discount is separate from the Mason 10 code and may be used on an additional purchase. I'll leave links to all the products I use in the description box below. Please note that all offers are subject to change. Now that it's dry, I'll brush on component number 2. This step is an amber color. Use thin, even strokes. If you get buildup or drips anywhere, it'll show when dry. I'll let this dry for a couple of hours. Once dry, you'll see the cracks. I have some amazing cracks now, and I'm going to add some antiquing so you can see them. I'm using Pentart antique paste. It's solvent-based, so it's safe to put over the fine line crackle. I'm rubbing it into all the cracks and then wiping it off with a dry, soft cloth. Make sure you do not use a wet wipe. The antique will wipe off the surface of your piece, but stay in all those beautiful cracks. I'll let the antique paste dry for a couple of hours. Before I seal this, I'm going to add some splatters that will add to the vintage look. I'm using some of my dark brown paint and watered it down a lot to make it very runny. Splatters work best when the paint is runny. I'm using a fan brush, loading it with some of my runny paint and just tapping the handle of the brush. I'm adding the splatters just around the outside edge. I let the antique paste dry for a couple of hours. Then I gave it a coat of Gamvar clear gloss varnish. This is a solvent-based sealer, so it's safe for the fine line crackle. It's very shiny and gives your piece an aged porcelain appearance. I let this dry for an hour. Also, please note that you cannot use any water-based varnishes or antiques over the fine line crackle. It will ruin your crackle finish. Since this product is solvent-based, the best way to clean your brush will be with mineral spirits. I'm going to use some cream paste to duplicate the cute lace that was on the original rice paper. This mold is really shallow and you're not able to use clay. Cream paste works perfectly in shallow molds. I'm applying it with a palette knife and scraping off all the excess. I love this product for really shallow molds, and it dries flexible, so you could wrap it around a bottle or a jar. I'll let this dry for several hours. This is dry now, and I'm wiping some of the excess product off with alcohol. I just want to take a moment, all of my crafty friends, to say thank you for watching this video. If you're enjoying the content, it would be great if you could take a quick second and hit the like and hype buttons. I appreciate you for doing that. I have some awesome new projects coming up, so don't forget to subscribe. This removes from the mold so easily, and see how flexible it is? I need the lace to bend in an oval, so I'm adding little snips between each scallop. This way it'll bend sideways and go around the oval wood piece. I'm going to use hot glue to attach the lace on the back side of the oval. I put a dot of glue between each scallop. The lace just added so much to this, and now it looks like the original rice paper, other than the basket background. Wait until you see how this turns out once I put it together. The basket background and the vintage goose picture just look adorable together. Any of the products I use in my videos are wonderful products that I personally believe in, so you can bet that each one is a great product. Everything I use will be listed in my description box below. Each one will have a blue link, so they're easy for you to find. Any links I provide are safe for you to click on. To find my description box, click on the word more just below the title of this video. Now I'm gluing some bronze ball chain around the oval on top of the lace and against the wood. This fills in that gap nicely and makes the wooden lace look seamless together. If I get any glue on top of the oval, I'm wiping it off immediately. I'm using my favorite, Doss clay, to make some embellishments for this project. Doss clay is so easy to work with, dries quickly, and has very little shrinkage or cracking when dry. It's perfect for making molded pieces. After pressing the clay into the mold, I'm scraping off the excess with my palette knife. I've had this mold in my stash for a while. After I glued them on the board, I realized that they're actually ducks and not geese. But I'm going to paint them white so they kind of look like the goose in the picture. I'm going to leave you a link for a silicone mold that is actually geese and not ducks. Now I'm smoothing the clay out with some water. Then I'll put them in the freezer for 20 minutes. Freezing the clay makes it rigid, so they just pop out of the mold easily. No fragile pieces will break off. Fresh out of the freezer, watch how easily these just pop out of the molds. No delicate little pieces will break off. They are frozen solid, so I'll need to let them thaw for a few minutes, but not in the mold. Make sure you remove them from the mold right away as soon as you take them out of the freezer. While they're thawing, I take that time to smooth out the edges and remove any little pieces of clay that shouldn't be there. While they're still somewhat frozen is a great time to do this. They're still hard, so touching them won't destroy all that beautiful detail. They do thaw quickly and will be ready to glue to your project within a few minutes. I'm going to use Aleene's tacky glue to add my molded clay to my piece. I need to add this while the clay is still wet so it'll conform to the piece as it dries. This is the best glue I've found for attaching wet clay. If any glue seeps out from under the clay, I'm removing it right away with a clean, damp brush. I'm also pressing down all the edges of the clay very delicately to make sure they're all connecting with the piece. I put my glue on the back of a silicone mold, and I'm using a silicone makeup brush to apply the glue. This makes for a really easy cleanup, and no artist paintbrushes become destroyed. If you let the remaining glue dry, it just peels right off. So I'm going to let this dry overnight. I'm going to paint all my geese ducks white. Even though the clay dries white, it's not a pure white, so I always put a coat of white paint on my clay. I'm using Summer Peach to paint all their bills and feet. This color was a pretty good match for the goose in the image. I let the paint dry for about 30 minutes, and then I put a coat of my satin varnish on and let that dry for an hour. I'm going to do some antiquing, and I need a shiny surface for that. I'm also giving the bottom board with the basket print a coat of satin varnish. I need that to be shiny as well. I'm going to add a little depth and dimension by doing an antiquing technique. I'm using folk art antiquing medium in the color Wooden Bucket Brown. I put a few drops in a little paper cup and added some water. I prefer my antique mediums somewhat runny. I'm brushing my antique on the piece, going over and around all the embellishments. I'm doing this in sections and wiping the antique off with a soft dry cloth right away before it can dry. Because of the gloss finish, it will wipe off the surface and stay in all the cracks and crevices, showing the details of the mold. Antiquing gives your embellishments some depth and dimension, making everything look 3D instead of flat. What a difference it makes. Everything just comes to life now. I did a little bit of white dry brushing on the bills and feet to make the orange a little more subtle. After the paint dried in just a few minutes, I gave them a coat of my satin varnish as their final coat. I want them to be shiny. I'm going to paint my basket board with the dead flat varnish. I want this to have a flat finish and everything else to have a shine. I had to have the bottom board shiny for my antiquing technique, but now I can give it my final dead flat finish. I'm very carefully going around the embellishments because I want them to remain shiny and not flat. I put a bead of Aleene's tacky glue around the oval on top of the lace edge. Because it's the highest point, it will be what connects with the bottom board. I'll let this dry for several hours. I wrapped some twine around the handle of the board and tied it in a bow. I added a blue velvet bow. Then I added a little greenery and a blue flower that matches the ribbon on her hat. Don't forget, all of the wonderful products I'm using today can be found at my favorite place for craft supplies, decoupagenapkins.com, and I'll leave you links in my description box below. If you enjoyed this video, I have a playlist where you can find a lot of other mixed media projects. Click the picture on the right to watch some other projects you may enjoy. Thanks for watching, and if you don't want to miss any new projects, you can subscribe by clicking my picture in the top right corner.